All right. Hello, everyone. My name is David from ComfortClick. I would like to thank you all for joining me to today's KNX webinar. We're going to be taking a look at the ComfortClick ecosystem. We're going to be showing you a little bit around how everything works, a little bit about ourselves, our devices, hardware, and we're going to also take a little bit of a dive into our software solutions as well. So to get started, a little bit about us. We are a home automation software and hardware developer. We have been established in the 2008. We just had actually a 15-year anniversary not long ago. So we have been in this home automation business for quite a while now. We do have a headquarters here in Ljubljana, Slovenia, but we do also have a commercial branch in Amsterdam. And we have been in a member of a KNX association and in a part of a Z-Wave Alliance for also quite a while now. The way the whole ecosystem works here, as you can see, this kind of an image kind of represents how the communication between the server and the client works. So each building, each apartment has, let's say, our server. This could be one of our jigsaws, but I can maybe show you a little bit later what it actually is. So one of our servers, it is running on the building, electrical cabinet, and then the system integrator would use the Configurator app here to configure all the devices, add, let's say, our KNX, Z-Wave, and other devices in, create the logic, create the visualization, and then the client can then use phones or let's say tablets to control the devices, control the scenes, let's say, maybe see the cameras, control the heating. So basically all the devices that are in the building, the client can then use our application to control all these devices. The client can also constantly receive feedback, what's going on in the building. If there's like an alarm or any issues, the client can also constantly receive feedback on what's going on. Like I mentioned, one of our servers is here. We have our Jigsaw server. This is definitely our most popular server that we have. It's small, compact, can fit basically in any electrical cabinet. And the best selling point about this server is that it comes with a KNX gateway pre-installed or basically included in the device. So if you are using, let's say, this Jigsaw server in your KNX project, there's no additional need for an additional KNX IP gateway or any other gateways basically to connect to the server or control the KNX devices. And this Jigsaw server will also allow you to remotely program your ETS, remotely program your BOS as well. So our software, so all this integration and support can be done locally or from the outside of the local network. And this Jigsaw or any of our hardware that we provide, they all come with the license or let's say with our software pre-installed in the machines. So if you do purchase one of our hardwares, basically more or less a plug and play kind of a situation. You plug it in, everything is more or less pre-installed ready. You get the configuration running, and then the client can already use, let's say, the phone or their tablets to connect to the building and basically control the devices. This is kind of what the client can see using, let's say, the phone or their tablets. I will also show you because I have, of course, the applications pre-installed on my machine, but this is kind of the view that the client can expect when they connect to any building, basically. So we have, as you can see, rooms or panels at the bottom. Then on the main screen, we see the currently selected room, and then you can see all the devices basically that are in the room. On the right, on the phone, you can see that BOS will also automatically align according to your device's screen. And you will just see a little bit of a different view if you have a phone or a tablet, but all the information is still available to see. So I actually have a configuration running on my machine, and this is kind of the configuration that you can expect when you create a configuration with BOS. So like I mentioned, the client sees the devices. The client can have a complete overview of the building. They can, see, this is just a home page, let's say, or when you connect, you get some basic data, current time information. We get, weather information. Here we have some shortcuts that the client can use to quickly access, most popular rooms or most popular places usually that the client can go. And then there's also some data logging that can be available. BOS can basically log any data you want. So currently I'm displaying temperature, wind speeds, but this could be consumption. This could be any other data basically that we have. And I'll also show you a little bit later on, how this data can be represented and how the client can use this data. To move from room to room, we can use, let's say, this bottom menu here, or we can also use the shortcuts here. So let's say if I want to go into my floor plan view, I can quickly just select this floor plan. And this is another option that is available to our clients, which is kind of this top-down view, or let's say floor plan view. The client can use this view to kind of get an overview of the whole building. Here you can see we have devices. So we have, our lights, our shades, and the client can use freely, phones, tablets, PCs, basically anything that has connection to the building, and just move around and control the devices. So like I said, we have lights here, we have some heating control. So if you want to, here we can see my set point for heating, my current temperature, set point status, valve positions, and so on. So all the basic information for the heating is here as well. And you can then go around into different rooms. If I want to go into the bedroom, I can, use this shortcut here, go to the bedroom and, turn the lights on here, turn the shades up if I want. So, the same principle applies here as well. All the devices are visible and ready to control. If you want to use, let's say, scenes, scenes are here at the bottom, you can see, turn off, toilet, private time, we can switch between different scenes. And of course, according to the scene, the device is then going to be, changed. With BOS, we support multiple different alarm systems. So you can have full access and full control of your alarm. We have DSC, Paradox, and SATEL. So you can use our virtual keypad to arm or disarm the alarm. You can also see the current let's say zones, what's happening if there's some movement. These could be movement sensor, this could be zones, doesn't matter. Basically, you can have feedback here, and then you could also link this to let's say some notifications. So if you're away, and of course maybe something with the alarm, you can also receive notification. There's movement in outside or living room or somewhere else. HVAC, of course, is also supported. So all the, thermostats, heating, underfloor heating, solar panels, anything basically that, that you have can be, of course, included into BOS. If they are on KNX, it's even easier because then you just, include the KNX addresses and you're more or less ready to go. But here you can see we have full, data that is available for, each room. And of course, depending on how the client wants it, you could have thermostats for each room, or you can have thermostats in separate rooms and so on. So all the data is here to be used by the client. There are also a couple of how to say audio video devices that can be included and added. So we have our Kodi, we have Sonos speakers, we have native driver for the Sonos speaker. A couple of different TVs can be added in, such as Samsung and LG devices can be added in, and then the client can also use BOS client application to control these devices. Play sounds, a doorbell, even stop, pause with the music or the TV. So basically, control these devices in as well. Any IP camera is supported and can be added in. So as long as the camera is IP based or whatever, you can add it into BOS and can have this live view what's going on currently in the building. Like consumption values, like I mentioned at the beginning, can be displayed in a couple of different ways. This is another way you can create a kind of a SCADA view for the consumption. Here we have just a heating and we know some solar panels and what's the current consumption. And here we also see the graphs, which I can click, and I can have more of a detailed view as well of the graphs. Each graph has different different views that you can choose. So we'll go from months, days, or even years. You can look back, you can save this data, you can export it, import it, and so on. So all this data can be used. And same goes for irrigation. So if you do have an irrigation system set up, you can control the different zones with BOS. You can automate the zones, so and you can play around basically with this as well. Same goes for pool. Specific projects may have a pool option, so you can also integrate this into BOS. Some cooling pumps, different pH levels, depending on which device you might have, and you can also create kind of a SCADA visualization like this, where all the data is available to the client, and the client can control or see what's happening currently with the pool as well. BOS also comes with its own weather API. So current weather information is available to the client. They can see current weather status. So what's the temperature, wind speeds, humidity, and so on. And there's also a short weather forecast as well. So you can see for a couple of different days how the weather was going to work. I'll show you also when we go to the configurator. I will also show you, how easy it is to use this weather API. It's actually very, very easy. The whole client application that I'm showing you now, everything is fully customizable. And I will show you when we go to the configurator how easy it is to swap out icons, change logos. The clients can use customizable images, photos of the actual building, or they can use logos of the company. They can use custom icons and everything. So I'll also show you the variety of currently included icons that come with BOS, but you're also always free to use your own custom icons. The whole client part can also be translated to different language. So let's say if the client maybe doesn't speak English, they can always go in the top right, go to settings, and change the language to, let's say, I don't know, German, for instance. And if you change the language to German, you can see everything that is translated to different language is now in German, for instance, in this case. So even the user interface, everything that is in the client base with a click of a button can be translated to different language. And we support a variety of different languages. Special characters can be added in as well. It's a Greek, for instance. So all of the words and everything that is translated is now automatically in a completely different language. I'm just going to switch it back to English now for now. Okay, English. So this is what the typical client would see, or this is how the typical client would use their smart home. But if you are a system integrator, I would say the magic and all the logic that I showed you here, everything is done in the BOS configurator application. So this is application right here that I'm going to open now. So this is kind of the back end of the whole client that I showed you earlier. This is where we add our KNX, add our other devices. This is where we create the logic. And this is also the part where we create the visualization. So this is going to be the main tool for us to, like I said, add all of these devices in, create the logic, and also this is going to be the application to create the visualization as well. I will give you a quick tour so you'll have a little bit better understanding where everything is located. As you can see, the configuration is built in a configuration tree, which means that we have main nodes here on the left side, and then we have sub nodes containing additional settings or additional information. So building node contains all the basic information about the server. General contains additional, functions for the server. Devices is a list of all the devices that are in the building. Tasks is where we create the logic, and then themes is where we create the visualization. So Very simple, very intuitive, very easy to use. I'll show you when we start creating some logic, you'll see how, fast and easy it is to create something very, very, useful for the client with just a couple of clicks, basically. Building node, like I said, contains basic information about the server. So if I open up this license information, you can see the basic license information, server versions, connection settings, IPs, and so on. So basic information. Updates here contains, of course, our software updates for the program. We do try to update software quite frequently, provide fast solutions, bug fixes, improvements, and so on. And one good thing to note here is that all current and future updates are available completely for free. So down the line, if we implement a new device, a new protocol, a new feature, everything is completely for free. So if you do have one of our licenses, there are no monthly, there are no yearly fees. They're just, you purchase the license or the hardware, and then you can, use the BOS, as long as you want. This is under building node, you can also change your network settings, connect to your Wi-Fi, and you can also shut down or reboot your machine via the configurator as well. The next major subnode that we're going to take a look at is going to be our general. So like I said, general contains additional settings for my configuration, additional information, and additional features that can be added in. Here we have our users, and as you can see, if you went through our website, or if you are familiar with our servers or our licenses, you probably know that we have different hardwares come with different user counts, and you can purchase additional users and so on. And why do we have these users? I would say the easiest way to explain is to give you, let's say, a practical example. We have an apartment building with parents and children living in this apartment building. And let's say the parents don't want the children to have access to the alarm or the heating or the cameras. So then you would create two separate users. One user would be, let's say, parents, and the other one would be, let's say, children. And let's say and then the children would have limited access to the building. They can only see, the lights in their room, or maybe the speakers and so on. They cannot see the cameras. And on the other hand, the parents have full access. They can see the cameras, they can see, heating, alarm, they can have full access. So this is one major benefit when it comes to the users. And it's a crucial part when we have a commercial building. Let's say a hotel. You don't want, guests in room number 1 to control the devices in room number 2 or the hallway, right? You only want the guests in their room to control the devices that are in, their specific room that they checked in. So that's why these users are crucial when, when it comes to these industrial or commercial integrations. I mentioned earlier that everything is translated. This is where the translations are done in the translations section. So here you would just add a new language in, and that's etc. Finish, for instance, and do the translations. You can of course reuse these translations in other projects as well, but this is where all the translations for the client is done. I mentioned also earlier that in the client, all the buttons, if I open it up, all the buttons and all the icons, everything is fully customizable. And if you go here to the files and then images, you can see that BOS comes with, I think it's around 300-400 images that you can choose, blinds, panels, tilts, skylight, or, robots or saunas. So it doesn't matter. So BOS comes with all of these icons that you can use. But BOS will also allow you to use your own custom icons. You can use custom icons, images, and so on. And to do this, again, extremely easy to do. You just go here under images, select add. You can find any image that, let's say, on my desktop, I have just this airplane icon prepared, and open it up. And this icon is now ready to be used in the visualization. So this is basically, the way you can customize it, the way you can change the visualization very, very quickly and easily. I mentioned earlier that also BOS has its own weather API that I showed you in the client. So if I go here under weather, and this is the weather API that we have here. So we are actually using an open weather map API that's publicly available. And the way this works, you just go here under weather, here we have change location, and just change location to, let's say Athens somewhere. We can go somewhere else, usually a little bit warmer there. Click OK. It takes a couple of seconds to refresh. And depending, of course, on where you are, what you're doing. But if you open up the client application, we can see now a completely different weather status because I changed the location. So this is basically how the weather system works. One good thing about the weather is you can actually use all of this information. You can use the weather and temperature to control maybe heating or wind speeds, maybe to control some shades or whatever. Of course, it's not going to be as accurate as an actual weather station, but it does work good enough for you to maybe send some notifications or maybe control heating if you're, if you do trust the weather 100%. BOS also supports voice control, so Alexa and Google Smart Home are supported. So if you are planning on using either of these two devices, you can use them. Yeah, we have a dedicated step-by-step instructional videos that you can check, so we don't lose time on how this integration is done. But once you are done with the project, you can actually link all of your devices via the Alexa and Google Smart Home, and then use the voice on your phone or on your speaker to control all of these devices. So if I select my devices and select Add, you can see the list of all the devices that are currently supported by BOS. And as you can see, we support a variety of different devices. We have, of course, we have our KNX, we have BACnet, Modbus, a couple of different alarm systems, like I mentioned at the beginning, Z-Wave, speakers, alarm system, cameras, MQTT. So all these devices can be added into BOS. And in most cases, when it comes to other projects, you would need to have separate application for each of these devices. You need to have a separate application for BACnet, and then another one for Z-Wave, Kodi, Sonos, and so on. You can have separate apps. At the end, you have 10 different apps to control all these devices. But here with ComfortClick and BOS, we use the BOS configurator. We add all these devices in, and then by using our tasks, we can create a seamless communication between all of these devices. We can use maybe some motion detection on BACnet to control KNX, alarm systems, or maybe Z-Wave temperature readers to control KNX heating and so on. So you can mix and match and create a kind of a seamless communication between multiple different devices. For today's integration, I'm going to add KNX to the list. And this is just, so we have our KNX ready to be used. All connection types are supported by BOS, so it doesn't matter what the way you're connecting to your KNX. We have IP, tunneling, serial, USB, Jigsaw. If you're using our hardware, you can also use Jigsaw to connect, of course, to the KNX. So all the connection types are supported and can be used. And we have been in the home automation business, working with KNX for well over a decade now, and we do know how easy it is for a KNX project to get big and complicated with hundreds of group addresses. That's why we created the KNX import wizard. So once your ETS project is done, once all of the devices are programmed, everything is working, everything is done, you can export that ETS project as, let's say, a .xml or KNX project file. You export it, you save it on your computer, and then you can import it into BOS. To do this, just open up here, import. You can go to we can go to my demo, like I have some demo KNX project, and I can open it up. And you can see the list of all the KNX group addresses that are in my ETS project. As you can see, some are white and some are colored red, right? If your group addresses are undefined in ETS, they will also be undefined in BOS. So if we want to use them, we need to define basically these group addresses. If you have just basic knowledge of ETS, this process is extremely easy to do. You can just select the device that you want to include that's maybe undefined, right-click and select the correct type. So in this case, here we can see we have our path, which is the name, the address, and status address. And here we can see lights on and off for bedroom is undefined. And I can select it, right click, and select DPT Boolean because it's an on and off value. Very similar, very easy to do. Here we have some dimmable lights, and I can actually click and drag my mouse button to multiple select my dimmable devices, right click. I'm going to say unsight value. I'm not going to go through all of these, not to waste too much time. I'm just going to do some of the shades in. So let's say shade statuses, positions. And you're basically ready to use these devices. If you do want to receive live feedback in your client, let's say if I open up the client application back, and if I go maybe to living room, or maybe let's go to the bedroom. If you want to receive live feedback in the client, like if I switch off lamp, the lamp is off. If someone in the room, now turns off on this lamp, and if I want to receive feedback here in the client, I will need to link my status addresses to my group addresses in order to have this link possible. Again, very simple procedure to do. I can just select, let's say, I want to receive feedback from these 6 devices. I can copy my status addresses. So copy address. So as you can see, we have lights on and off status. And I can go to my actual group addresses for control, right click, and paste to status address. And as you can see, BOS has now linked these 2 group addresses together. And now if I want to receive live feedback, BOS will allow me to get this feedback done. Again, if you have just basic knowledge of ETS, the whole process is extremely fast and easy to do. Okay, so let's say we have all the group addresses linked together and everything is done. I can click next, and we can see that KNX has imported 63 new devices into BOS. In the first step, we just basically included the group addresses. But now in the next step, we're going to tell BOS, okay, this is a lamp, this is a shade, this is heater, this is temperature, this is wind speed. We're going to tell BOS what these devices are. Again, extremely easy process to do. Not to go too complicated. I'm just going to integrate a couple devices here. Let's go to my lights on and off. Select all of these devices, right click, set template to lamp, because these are of course lights. As you can see, BOS has now changed the templates to lamp. I can actually select, let's say, these 3 devices and maybe change it automatically here, image as well. So when we're going to be creating the visualization, all of these settings are going to be added in. So go to lamps and maybe use this chandelier lamp. And maybe let's add the shades in as well. So we have shades, position, and let's add shades in as well. So let's go shades. And as you can see, a lot of things actually happen at the back end, custom coloring for the shades, how the shades are going to work in the client. They're going to be buttons like this, where we put the shades up, put the shades down, and so on. So a lot of things, when you set the template, a lot of things actually happen on the back end. And again, you would go through all these devices and set the correct template. And once you are done, you can actually close this input wizard and you're ready to use these devices in. If your ETS project has been done well, transparently, everything is linked, everything is labeled correctly, it's going to be easier in BOS because BOS will actually put your group addresses into folders and also subfolders exactly the same way as you have them in ETS. So it's going to be much easier for you to find your group addresses and change any group addresses if you want, if you have these devices linked correctly. So lights on and off, I can see my light is here, and if I was connected to a KNX bus, if I go here to values and set this to true, the lamp would turn on basically. In a matter of a couple of minutes, we have devices added in. Of course, if you are manually adding a light or any other device here and there, you can also manually add group addresses in. You just need to select, of course, which device this is. Let's say lights on and off. Select add, and then you select a device from the list of group addresses, basically types of group addresses. And you can add, let's say, 1-bit value. This will be an on and off, and we can go garden lamp, for instance, lamp. And set the addresses, set the status addresses, set the templates, and you're ready to use this device. And this is the way basically the whole KNX can be implemented in. Once you do this once or twice or maybe a couple times, it's extremely fast and extremely easy to do. Very similar principle goes with other devices. Let's say if you go to Modbus, in other devices, having a manual of the device is quite crucial because you need to know the addresses that the device has been registered to. And if you have this, let's say this is a AC unit from Daikin, that's Modbus. You just add Modbus in, Modbus device. You set the correct connection type, so connection settings. Depending if you are connecting via IP or serial, set the correct connection settings. Read the instructional manual, of course, to get the settings. Set the slave address, and then, of course, using the manual, add your addresses in and link them correctly. Very similar, very simple process. Similarly, when it comes to Z-Wave, again, very similar. Just let's say you use USB dongle to connect to the Z-Wave. Use the discovery button to locate your devices. If you're adding new devices, then of course you use the inclusion. Read the instructional manual of the device and include the device in. Again, very, very simple and easy process to do. Okay, so we have our KNX added in, let's say other devices. The next thing we can now start doing is creating some logical tasks. By using logical tasks, then we can have some automation done. We can have some communication between devices done. So that's why we would use these tasks. If I select tasks, right click and select add, we can see the list of all the tasks that are currently supported in BOS. And we have a variety of different ones, from simple ones, some data logs, scenes, schedules, to some more complex ones, such as some bit conversion, calculations, program tasks, timers. So all these tasks can be added in, and using these tasks, we can then communicate between different devices. I will keep it simple for today. I'm just going to add a couple of scenes. Let's say lights on. Let's create our lights off scene. And let's add a movement detector task. Just maybe we can add some more later on. So as you can see, my new tasks have been added in here to the list of my tasks. To create specific tasks is very, very simple. Here we have scenes. Of course, if you're not familiar with scenes, scenes are basically controlling multiple devices at once. So if you run a scene, all the devices that are in the scene are going to be controlled. The way scene creation is done is extremely easy. You just select the scene that you want to control. Let's say lights on or off. Select the devices. In this case, I can go to my KNX and lights, select which device I want to control, and drag it into the scene and click OK. Select, drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop. All you do is basically dragging and dropping your devices into the scene. And I'm not limited to just KNX. I can go to my Daikin, for instance, my AC, and also add the AC on as well. So simply just selecting which device I want to control and drag it into the scene. Of course, this is a lights on scene. So what we need to do is I need to select all my devices and set value to true. This means when this scene is going to be triggered, all these devices are going to be turned on. To create an opposite scene, it's even easier. I can actually copy all of these addresses. So I can select them all, copy. I can go to my lights off scene and paste them in. And of course, if I'm turning these devices off, I can just select them, right click, set value to false. And now all of these devices are going to be turned off when this scene is going to be run. Like I said, extremely easy, extremely fast, and very intuitive way you can create this scene. There's a couple of different ways our tasks can be triggered. First is, of course, by using the client application. So I can open up client and I can run this scene, or I can run this scene, or all off. So this is one way you can trigger it. Second way is by using an automated trigger here. So if I go here on the triggers and click add, I can use basically any node in the configuration as a trigger to trigger my devices. So this could be movement, this could be weather, this could even be time, for instance. So if I go here under time of day, and let's say at 9 o'clock at night, all of these devices are going to turn off. And here we already have some very simple, but again, very, very useful automation done with just a simple trigger, basically. And this is another way you can trigger the scene. The third way is maybe using other tasks, movement detector task to trigger a scene, or program task. So you can mix and match and combine these devices or these tasks. If you have a massive scene, you can also use a delay option. If you have a scene with 50 or 100 devices, if you turn these devices all on at once, you can imagine there's going to be a little bit of an overload on the KNX bus. So that's why we have this delay option here. You can add a small delay, and then BOS will then slowly turn these devices, off or on, depending on, of course, on the scene. Another task that we have I would say it's a perfect example of communicating between different devices is by using our movement detector. So what this movement detector does, of course, it detects movement and then it controls specific devices. The input value is where we're going to be using our movement sensor. And then the output value is what we are controlling, or which device we are controlling. So under input value, I'm just going to go, and we can go to our movement sensor. In this case, I have something I think in Fibaro. So Fibaro sensor binary, this is going to be our movement detector. And then the output value can be our newly created KNX lights. And maybe let's say we have a sensor that's outside or in the backyard or in the garden, for instance. We select this garden lamp and click OK. And now you can see we have a seamless communication between two completely different devices. In one case, we have Fibaro motion sensor that's detecting movement. And then we have our KNX, this is a KNX lamp that's turning on, for instance. And, it's as simple as that, basically. You can just mix and match two completely different devices in one simple scene, and two completely different protocols as well. So we have Z-Wave in one case, and then we have KNX on the other case. No different apps, no multiple apps, nothing too complex, and so on. Okay, so we have our KNX added in. We have a couple of different tasks. The last thing we can now start doing is creating our visualization. So if I go to my themes and then here under my project, I am just going to select a blank new panel for us. And let's call it living room, for instance. And this is just going to create a blank panel in our visualization. The way the visualization is done, you can guess it is extremely fast and extremely easy. We just go to which device you want to control in the visualization. Let's say lights in the living room, select it and drag it to the visualization and click OK. And this device is ready to be used. Our living room middle, let's add this one. And we can add these two devices in. And if I go to the client application, you can see these devices are added in and they are ready to be used by the clients. Of course, in most cases, we don't create buttons like this where there are, massive buttons on the middle of the screen. That's why if I remove these, I can select my background, right click, and add a simple frame. So adding a frame will now kind of structurize our visualization and allow us to add these devices in. So living room LED, drag and drop this, living room middle, whichever device you want to control, kitchen, select it and add it in. We can go another frame. We can create shades. So shades position, living room, let's say kitchen, or even a hallway, for instance. And I can add a title to it here. So if I select any button or any frame in the visualization, all the settings are here on the right side. So I can add a title, shades. I can add a title here as well. So lights. And we also have a couple of different scenes that we created earlier. So scenes are usually added in the bottom menu, just because if we add a bottom menu, the scenes are going to stand out a little bit differently. Because if I drag and drop my lights in, they look more or less very similar to any other buttons. But if I select the frame and if I unlock the bottom menu here on the settings, see, a blank bottom menu has appeared. And now if I drag and drop the scenes in, you can see now they look a little bit different, than other buttons. So you can immediately tell that these are now scenes and the top ones are buttons. And in a matter of, I don't know, was it like 20, maybe a minute or so, we have fully functional, let's say, living room, or, let's say a room with devices ready to be used by the client. So we can go turn the light on, turn the shades down if I want, turn the scene on, turn this scene on. It depends on what the client wants, but as you can see how extremely fast and extremely easy it is to create a functional scene ready to be used by the clients. BOS will also allow certain freedom to the clients for the end users, especially when it comes to the scenes, because you can run the scene all the time, run it, turn it off, turn it on. But we will also allow the clients to tweak the scenes, because in most cases you would create this, let's say if you're a system integrator and you create something for the client, you would create the scene exactly as you want them. And then 3 months later, the client says, this, I want these lights to turn on differently. And they can actually change it themselves. They can go to, let's say this lights all, let's say all the lights are off. I can go to my lights off scene. And if I click this wheel button here, we can see all the devices that are currently in the scene. And maybe I can deselect these two lamps. And now the next time the scene is going to be run, these two lamps are not going to turn on. So you can add this to any scene. The client can, change the scenes, play around with them, as much as they want, and, create a scene for any occasion, basically. So this will be an automatic way of creating the visualization, where everything that I drag and drop, if I drag and drop another button in, they are going to be automatically aligned, automatically scaled according to my settings. But if I create a new panel here, I'm just going to create another one, floor panel. If you remember from the beginning, I showed you in the client application, we have two different views. First is, of course, the automatic one, like I did now, where if I drag and drop a button in, it's just, a massive button on the screen. But if I select my background and if I change the positioning from automatic to free, the free positioning, now if I drag and drop my living room button in, it's not going to be a massive button on the middle of the screen. It's going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to control, and I can actually place it and I can move it basically anywhere I want in the visualization. And I can move it, I can scale it, I can place it basically anywhere. Living room middle, I can place this one here. Kitchen, bedroom, any devices. Basically, of course, we can add them in, and it doesn't look too much. It doesn't look. Why would I do this with this? But if I go to the layout background, and if I change the layout to, let's say, layouts, we have a demo layout prepared. If I use this this layout now, I can actually place these devices exactly where they are in the visualization. So we can place this, here, living room LED. This could be, I don't know, a small LED strip that's maybe here at the couch. I can scale it like so. Maybe place it here. Maybe make it even smaller. And there's like a little bigger lamp here. Bedroom. We can go, outside lamp could be here. We can go garden. It's maybe outside this view, and we can maybe add one in the bathroom, and maybe one in the hallway here. And you can place these devices now exactly where you want them in the visualization. And now if I open up the client, you can see that now these buttons are exactly where they are in the visualization, and I can freely still, of course, control all these devices if I want. I forgot to put some shades in, so let's add those in as well. So living room, maybe shades here. Kitchen shade, like so. Okay, copy and make it here. So you can place them basically exactly where they are in the visualization. And if you have let's say a bigger project, you can also with a lot of devices, you can also in the client application, you can also pinch or zoom in or zoom out using the scroller, or you can, if you're on the phone, you can use the pinch to zoom in and zoom out and get the whole view of the configuration. I mentioned earlier that everything is also fully customizable, and I can actually show you how fast and easy it is to customize the visualization. This is the visualization that we created like a minute or so ago. Everything is here, everything is working. But now I can, let's say, select this button, and here you can see on the right side we have all the settings that are for this specific button. And I can, of course, change the name. This could just be countertop or countertop, let's say, lamp. And we set this here. And now if I change the style from automatic to manual, you'll see a lot more options are available for us for the customizations. And if I change the status display to manual, even more options are going to be available. So now we can go and customize our button as much as we want. Countertop lamp. Okay, so we have countertop lamp. I can select this, and I can, of course, change the icon if I want. Here's a perfect way of using the icon that we created in the beginning. We can use this icon if you want. We can change the back color if you want to. Let's say, I don't know, orange, or maybe something different. Let's make something completely different. Change the text color to, I don't know, this could be, which one? Let's say white. You can change the text color if you want. Make it look more 3D. You can add more roundness to it. You can also increase font size, and maybe someone has some vision impairment. You can also do this. You can change the orientation. So a lot of different options are available to play around basically here. You can play around as much as you want basically. Remove text on this. Change the way the icon or this button will react. In this case, by default, this is a toggle, but I can change it to a mouse down button, which will basically send on only when I'm holding down the mouse. And the list goes on. You can play around different images when it's on, when it's off, when this happens, that happens. You can play around with each individual button more or less endlessly and customize it as much as you want. So now if I go back to my client, you can see that now this button looks completely different like the rest. If I click and hold, it's on. If I release, it's off. And you can apply the exact same principle for all the other devices, and basically customize it as much as you want. Same principle goes with our floor plan. You can again select this button, scale it. If I change the styles, change it again, back color, text color, let's go to red. Oh, I can't even see this. Okay, let's go to yellow or something more visible. Nope. Let's go with white. Nope. Like I said, play around with it, tweak it. It's the best way, I would say, to get started, that you're just adding these devices in and just play around with them. And let's say add roundness to it, add more this, so it's more 3D. Basically, the same principle applies to my floor plan view as it does with the automatic view. So now, as you can see, this button looks completely different from the rest. And of course, we can also change the icon if you want. You can use the icon that I added earlier, but you can also, of course, at any point in the client application, change the icon to be basically anything else. You can use either an image, or the best case, I would be just I don't know, a different icon, maybe a car. It could be a car icon in the doesn't matter basically, as long as the the client is happy on how it looks. So yeah, one thing also to note here is that you don't need to create separate applications for all the platforms. You can create one application that's going to work on everywhere, basically everywhere. So you create one application and it'll run on Windows, it'll run on Android, on iOS. You can open it with any Windows browser or internet browser and connect and control the devices into visualization. And yeah, basically this will conclude the basic introduction into BUS. I think this is my time that I have today. I have maybe half more minute. One thing that I also want to tell you is that all the support that we have is completely for free. So if you go on our website and if you log in, create a ticket, we are always there to help you out. I would say 99 or even all support is completely for free. You can also visit our public forum, which has a ton of information, and of course our knowledge base is there as well, ready for you to use. So this will be the introductional part, and now we are ready for your questions. Feel free to ask any questions down. We'll be reading the chat, and we'll try to answer the questions and provide as much information as available. And yeah, thank you for listening, and I hope that you learn a couple new tricks, and I hope that you learn a little bit more about the whole ecosystem.